Intellectual property rights form key intangible assets emanating from research, scholarly work, and innovation, which form the primary products of these innovation system actors. They spread across both the public and private spheres, and hence any public sector institution entering into research partnerships with private sector entities will confront IP issues. The situation gets even more complicated in collaborative research projects, which involve different academic partners with differing clauses on key IP issues such as ownership, access, and benefit sharing in their institutional IP policies, private sector actors whose views and approaches to IP are more stringent or loose than their public sector partners, co-investment arrangements of funders who have different policies on IP, disclosure and sharing of potentially proprietary information. To facilitate interregional cooperation between and amongst African countries, as well as international cooperation between African countries and other parts of the world, SGCs will confront differing IP systems. Enhancing their capacities to negotiate, supported by guiding documents and evidence, would ensure they take off from an informed position. It will further be useful when resolving disputes related to ownership, disclosure, and the distribution of income from intellectual assets. Science granting councils as coordinators and facilitators play a fundamental role, thus close working relationship between the TTOs and the councils, ensuring government-funded research projects undergo proper IP audits and that IP rights are properly assigned. What is an IP audit? An IP audit is a systematic review of the intellectual properties owned, used, or acquired by organizations and businesses so as to assess and manage risk, remedy problems, and implement best practices in IP asset management. Why is an IP audit necessary? An IP audit will help the science granting councils to make an inventory of their IP assets or update it and analyze the different IP assets owned, whether internally generated or acquired by the organization, e.g., what type of IPs arise out of the grants from the SGCs, how the IP assets are used or unused. An IP audit seeks to uncover unused or underutilized assets to identify any threats to an organization's bottom line, enable business managers to devise informed business and IP strategies that help maintain and improve its competitive position in the relevant markets, whether these IP assets are infringing the rights of others or others are infringing on the organization's rights. Determine what actions are required to be taken with respect to each IP asset or a portfolio of such assets to serve the relevant business goals of the organization. For example, advocate for the commercialization of the IP. In conducting IP audits, there are 7 key capabilities that auditors should be equipped with, as well as considerations to take into account. They include, but not limited to, the auditor should know what to look out for. The auditor should be familiar with the different types of IP. The auditor should know why the audit is being conducted. It is important to be clear from the outset what the purpose of the audit is. The auditor should know what needs to be in place before the audit. The auditor should be adequately prepared to conduct the audit. Pre-audit planning and scheduling is important. The auditor should know the practical steps to follow while conducting the audit. IP audits deal with 2 main issues: 1, agreements and contracts, and 2, IP assets. The auditor should know how to record their findings. The auditor should know how to present the audit report, what sections, how long, key action points and implementation plan, recommendations. The auditor should be familiar with how to store and retrieve the data and reports. Part 1. Knowing what to look out for. In other words, what constitutes IP assets? Intellectual property (IP) rights are legal rights which arise from intellectual activities in industrial, scientific, literary, and artistic fields. They are the type of property that result from creations of the human mind, the intellect. The major types of IP include patents. Patents are used to protect inventions and applicable largely in scientific and technological innovation. Patents are useful in a wide variety of businesses such as pharmaceutical, biotechnology, engineering, and telecommunications. An applicant is required to give full disclosure of his or her invention in return for a period of exclusivity of 20 years. Patent protection is geographically limited. A patent owner therefore enjoys a monopoly for 20 years in the territory in which the patent is registered. What are the rights of a patent owner? A patent enables the rights holder to prevent others from making, selling, using, or importing the invention during the period of protection. A patent can also be used to get compensation from those infringing the right. It takes about 2 to 3 years to register a patent. The person may lose the rights to a patent if before filing an application, the invention is published or other people are told about it. Copyright. Copyright protects original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, artistic, and certain other intellectual works such as software codes. Copyright does not protect ideas. The work must be captured in some way, e.g., written down or recorded. The protected works include literary works, including software, dramatic and musical works, sound recordings, films, broadcasts, and cable programs. The duration of copyright varies with the type of work, but it is generally 50 years after the life of the author or after the initial broadcast or performance. Database rights allow you to protect databases where you have made a substantial investment in making the database. Copyright and database rights are important for IT companies, e-commerce, literature, music and theatre, internet, television, film, press and other media, training and education. What are the rights of a copyright holder? A copyright holder gets a right to stop others from copying, adapting, distributing, communicating to the public, renting or lending copies to the public, or performing in public, and to get compensation if these rights are infringed. In order to attract protection, the work must be original. Such works may be protected by a number of copyrights. Copyrights include both economic and moral rights and protection. Trademarks. A trademark or service mark is a word, a symbol, a logo, a picture, a design of goods or services, or a combination of these used to distinguish the goods or services of one person or organization from those of others in the marketplace. A number or symbol can be protected in 2 ways: a registered trademark or an unregistered trademark protection. It is easier to prove a registered trademark than unregistered. Trademarks are relevant for all businesses which sell goods or services using a brand name or other distinctive sign. With a registered trademark, you can stop and get compensation from someone else using the same sign for the same class of goods. You can also stop a similar sign being used for similar goods or services. Trade secrets offer an indefinite intellectual property protection by keeping it a secret. This is information which is yours, secret, and of value to your business. This includes customer lists, manufacturing techniques, or business methods. Whatever is kept secret should be something that cannot be easily reverse engineered. Secrecy can be achieved by limiting the number of individuals with access to the information and strict controls over information to maintain confidentiality. The major risk here is that if the trade secret is inadvertently disclosed, no legal protection exists, and third parties who file a patent application which covers the information will take control. There is a duty under equity not to disclose confidential information. However, it is advisable to enter into express confidentiality agreements with your employees, suppliers, and some of your customers who may get access to your confidential information. Protection takes effect on the date specified by the parties to the agreement. An industrial design is used to protect a manufactured article which has a specific appearance. A design must be new, original, and sufficiently distinct. Protection applies to the finished article, not the process. Design rights are relevant for all businesses that create products or articles which need to look different to others. The registered design needs to be applied for and will protect the features of shape, configuration, pattern, or ornament of new aesthetic articles. The shape of a bottle, spoon, cap, or headlights can be protected with both registered and unregistered design right. The unregistered design right allows you to stop and get compensation from someone else using your design only if you can show they have copied your design. The protection lasts 10 to 15 years but can be deferred for 5 years. A registered design enables you to stop and get compensation from anyone else making or selling a substantially similar article, regardless of whether they have ever seen your design, for up to 25 years. Geographical indications are rights that accrue from a reputation and special characteristics of a product attributable to a specific location. They include names or signs used on products that possess characteristics, qualities, or reputation resulting from their geographical origin, e.g., basmati rice from Basmati region in India, Pakistan, champagne from Champagne region in France, Roquefort cheese made in caves in the Roquefort region in France. GI allows farmers and producers to gain added value for their quality products. IP audit is generally conducted to maintain and control the IP assets, ensuring the wealth and health of IP assets. A general or broad IP audit is done in the following types of contexts. Before establishing a new company, to determine what IP assets the proposed new company owns or needs to protect. When a business is considering implementing new policies, standards, or procedures relating to IP. When a business is considering implementing a new marketing approach or direction, or is planning a major reorganization of the company. When a new person becomes responsible for IP management. Whenever new research and/or innovation grants are issued. Whenever research and/or innovation projects are concluded or finalized. Whenever new research agreements, contracts, partnerships are signed or negotiated. Once a comprehensive IP audit has been undertaken, a smaller effort and expense is needed at regular intervals, such as on an annual basis, so that IP assets are reviewed and appropriate decisions taken, depending on the current and emerging needs of a company or organization. Event-driven IP audit. The nature and scope of such an audit is determined by the event in question and the time and resources available for doing it. It is also called IP due diligence when it is done to assess IP due diligence and generally seeks to identify and locate IP assets and then assess the nature and scope of the IP to evaluate their benefits and allocate risk associated with the ownership or use of the relevant IP assets. In particular, it seeks to determine whether or not the relevant IP is free of encumbrances for its intended business uses. Identify problems in and barriers to the transfers of the IP assets under consideration. Identify and apportion between the two parties the expenses incident to the transfer of IP assets under consideration. IP due diligence is done in the following types of contexts: mergers, acquisitions, joint ventures and collaborative research, financial transactions, buying or selling a business division or IP transfer, launching a new product or service, IP licensing, bankruptcy and layoffs. Preparing for an IP audit. Be clear about the purpose. Before the actual conduct of an IP audit, it is a necessary precondition that it is clearly understood by all concerned why the audit is being conducted. The situations that prompt an audit and the nature and scope of the audit will to some extent depend on its purpose. The amount of time and money available for conducting an audit will have a bearing on the manner in which the audit is conducted and its eventual outcome. Finally, consider the available expertise and what needs to be outsourced. Constitute the IP audit team. The IP audit team should have a basic understanding of the product lines, the relevant business environment, and the future plans of the organization so that the audit remains focused on IP assets of maximum business and mission relevance. Conduct background research. A major preparatory step for conducting the audit is to understand the organization, what it does, and where it wants to go. Background research should focus on internal and external relations and interactions. Who does a company regularly interact or intend to interact with? Business strategy. How does its governance structure support or not support its business strategy? Importance of IP assets. The overall importance of IP assets to the business or mission will have a bearing on the audit. Status of IP management. It is important to determine, amongst other things, what is the organization's overall approach to IP management. IP disputes. Financing. Conducting an IP audit. An IP auditor should ordinarily start working from a detailed checklist which is prepared and modified for the type and size of the organization's business, relevant IP laws of the concerned countries, desired purpose or purposes, and the desired outcome or outcomes of the audit. Each member of the audit team should be provided with a detailed checklist which includes defining the scope of the audit, target intellectual properties, timetable of the audit, and responsible person or persons for the audit. The audit team should collect, review, and organize not only the IP information but also all the agreements that may affect the IP portfolio of the organization. To the extent possible, do or get done relevant IP searches in all key markets. Auditing contracts and agreements. This involves examination of the written arrangements with service providers. The intent behind a contract audit is to ensure that the amount and quality of services delivered to the client was correct and that the client was billed, paid, and obtained value for the amount billed. A key part of an IP audit is to identify and assess the adequacy of relevant provisions in all agreements that concern the protection of IP. These may include the following agreements: licensing agreements, assignment agreements, employment and independent contractor agreements, joint venture and collaboration agreements, R&D grants. Other kinds of agreements, e.g., technology transfer or know-how, technical assistance agreements, design and development agreements, royalty agreements, material transfer agreements, source code agreements. Auditing IP assets. After auditing agreements, the IP auditor starts to audit the IP assets of the company. There are 4 steps for this stage. Step 1. Identifying and recording IP assets. This involves a table detailing the IP asset with a concise description. Step 2. Determining ownership and legal status of the IP assets. The assets will be evaluated as to whether they are owned by the organization, and if so, whether they are or should be protected as IP rights. This assessment will enable the organization to determine where, if any, ownership problems exist, why they exist, and what should be done to prevent or solve such ownership issues. It will also reveal whether adequate systems are in place to protect these assets, and what internal obstacles exist to their protection. Step 3. Detecting infringement of IP rights. When conducting an IP audit, review company's policies with respect to the enforcement of its IP rights as well as its own systems for respecting the legal rights of others. If the assets are owned by the company, then an audit may provide information as to whether they are infringed by others. The IP audit may provide information as to assets that the company thinks it owns, but in reality it does not, and could give rise to problems of third-party infringement. Step 4. Taking necessary steps for creating and maintaining IP assets. An IP audit will reveal where there have been lapses in the administrative, legal, and regulatory procedures necessary for creating and maintaining IP assets. The audit will also provide the necessary impetus to take care of such requirements by creating or improving the relevant in-house policies, procedures, and management practices. After completing an IP audit, it is highly recommended that an organization 1. digitizes its systems, and 2. build an institutional IP inventory or repository. At its simplest, even a well-designed Excel sheet could be a starting point. For more advanced organizations, a Management Information System (MIS) is a way to go. This could be integrated into the overall institutional IP management. Analysis and strategic alignment. The IP auditor should evaluate and analyze whether the IP assets are serving the strategic objectives of the organization, and if not, what should be done to change that. The results of the IP inventory are divided into groups such as techniques, innovations, and ideas that are essential to your products and services and to the markets your company has decided to serve. Intellectual assets of real potential but not necessary to your company. Assets that seem on balance to have no great value to your company or to anyone else. Evaluating IP assets. The results of IP audit will be the basis for evaluation of IP assets. Properly valuing the benefits that may accrue from any IP asset requires an assessment of speed with which a particular market values and devalues that type of asset, royalties being paid for similar assets, market recognition of the asset, the cost of developing such recognition if it is deficient, the cost of developing alternative IP assets to fulfill the same or comparable market needs. From IP audit to IP asset management. Establish an IP asset management team. An IP asset management team is charged with managing the knowledge portfolio and is overseen by a senior executive. Create an IP culture. Proper training on IP best management practices should be provided to all staff. Formulate, track, and monitor the institutional IP policy or strategy. Implement effective communication strategies. It is important to verify that the organization's IP assets and resources are effectively communicated to both internal and external stakeholders. Presenting the audit report. Focus on the target audience. Our report should clearly identify who the commissioning authority is or are. This is a primary target for your report. Keep it brief. The purpose of this report is to advise the management or commissioner of the report on key highlights and action points. Talk to your audience. It inspires confidence and would likely invite engagement from them on what to do and the next steps. Without being prescriptive or restrictive, an audit report could include the following broad sections: executive summary, background and context, approaches, and key findings. Strategic interventions and recommendations. Focus on practicability and feasibility. This report should be an action-oriented tool. Your recommendations should be realistic and implementable in terms of cost, time, and impact. Base conclusions on results or evidence. Ensure your results and findings provide enough evidence to support the recommendations. Aim for concrete recommendations and strong assertions. State clearly what could or should happen next. What specific change or action are you seeking or recommending? What are the other alternatives? Why is this recommendation the best course of action?